Hello, friends. If you're excited to dive into the story of Inception, 2010, in English, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. It really helps us out. And if you're new here, hit that subscribe button and join a community that loves exploring the best movies. Let's get started. From the moment the screen flickers to life, we're caught in the lingering aftertaste of a world where dreams and reality collide, where every breath carries the weight of both wonder and unease. It's a cinematic odyssey that takes hold of your senses and refuses to let go. Imagine stepping into someone else's deepest subconscious, where the laws of physics bend at will and emotions manifest as gravity-defying structures. This is a film that cracks open the concept of a dream within a dream, an exhilarating labyrinth of mental fragments, and invites us to chase the ultimate heist, not of money, but of an idea. The premise is simple yet infinitely complex. A team of specialists led by a man haunted by his past must plant a thought in the mind of a powerful heir. But as viewers, we quickly realize that simplicity is only skin deep. A single planted idea can alter the course of cities, of lives, of empires. And the way this story unfolds is anything but linear. It rustles through layers of consciousness, floating from one dream level to another, the ground shifting beneath our feet as we try to hold on. The real world starts resembling an endless, echoing corridor of mirrors, and we begin to wonder, how do we know what's truly real? Before we enter the heart of the plot, let's savor the essence that makes this tale so gripping. This is not just a story of thieves breaking into subconsciously protected minds. It's a meditation on grief, guilt, and redemption. At the center is a man racked with sorrow. His connection to a woman he lost because of their shared guilt over a past tragedy pulls him into a spiral, making him question whether he deserves to wake up. He's a man trying to plant an idea that will free him, but is he planting it for himself or burying himself deeper? And so it begins, an Inception mission that promises to pit skill against perception. Picture this: a beautifully eerie hotel corridor where gravity flips sideways, couches sliding along walls like weightless dancers. Soundtrack swells in the background, its low hum a heartbeat to sync with. That's just one slice of the visual feast waiting. We meet a team each masterful in a different skill: dream forgers, architects of impossible structures, forgers of identity. They come together in a hushed briefing room that looks like an airline lounge, but the stakes are pure espionage. Our mission: to dive 3 layers deep into a subject's consciousness without waking him prematurely. And the trick? You can't just slip into a dream. You need a dream within a dream, and for each level there must be synchronized kicks, moments to jolt everyone awake. In the first descent, we glide through corridors marred by exploding glass, hallways warping like gelatin underfoot. It's an adrenaline rush, a world where anything can happen if your mind admits it. Had the architect not miscalculated the staircases? Was it all pre-recorded or real? Every step carries the tension of not knowing, and we shift from exhilaration to caution. By the time we finish the first level, the team is already in motion to plant the core of the idea. He must believe that he should dissolve his father's company, not for profit but for personal peace. Then characters catch our attention individually, each inching closer to deeper motives. There's the second-in-command with jaded eyes, skilled in extraction but weary of construction. A chemist dosing the perfect cocktail of sedatives, whose face betrays a quiet chain of moral questions. A newcomer teenage architect, bright but impressionable, reconstructing worlds she's never seen, carrying fragments of her own desires. Each of them wears a mask, whether literally in the dream world or emotionally in the real one, and the more we peer behind, the more complex their bonds become. As we travel deeper, the tone shifts. The once thrilling aesthetic becomes ominous. The dreamscapes warp not just in physics but in mood. Instead of skyscrapers folding, entire metropolises crack under the weight of subconscious guilt. Winters bleed into deserts. We begin to wonder if rescue is even possible. Our lead is pulled by memories of a life that could have been. Is the mission worth the price of being forever lost in the recesses of the mind? Then, in the second half, the true stakes become crystal clear. Time, every dream layer's ticking clock, becomes a character unto itself. That ticking clock turns to the sound of waves, splashing faintly in the background as we slip into the third layer, subconscious purgatory. We see vivid imagery, chained projections, collapsed city streets, emotional culminating confrontations. The tension is palpable as we start to ask bigger questions. If an idea is planted so deeply that it grows organically, then isn't that person still freely choosing it? Or is he forever an illusion of someone else's design? Meanwhile, the woman from the lead's past begins to haunt every layer, not just as memories, but as hostile forces that influence the dreamer's actions. Grief given flesh. And these hauntings are not decorative. They're central to the mission, because inside his mind, she is still alive and still in love, perpetually waiting. To find peace, he must let go. But can he? Somewhere between sandstorms and snow-covered mountains, between church steeples and vanishing platforms, the final stages of the mission coincide with emotional breakthroughs. One by one, the team encounters their own inner demons. Even the teenage architect, who once arrived bright-eyed, realizes her capacity for creative genius comes hand in hand with personal vulnerability. The chemist realizes that perfect sedation might kill more than just the senses. And for our lead, the price of redemption is not just planting an idea, it's willing disappearance from his own world. Before the final push, given the fragility of everything, there is a moment suspended in slow motion. A heartbeat shot, focused tight on each face flickering with doubt, determination, fear. A soft crescendo in the score that matches our pulse. Then, the final synchronized kicks across layers. The van falling, the van in the snow, the kitsch hotel elevator, the final toppling of chairs. One after another, everyone jolts awake? Or do they? In the end, we return to the supposed reality. Our lead steps onto the street amid people, smiles, sonorously rings a spinning totem, and we hold the camera on it as it teeters. What's genius about this is the refusal to answer. Are we awake? Or is this just a higher-level dream? The spinning falters. Does it? The scene cuts to black before we can be sure. But by then, the truth is already buried in our own interpretation. Inception doesn't deliver answers. It hands us the question, and that's the payoff. Even beyond the plot, let's talk about how understatedly grand everything feels. The visuals are not overt. There is no Macbeth-style supernatural CT scan, but they terrify precisely because they look possible. A city folding onto itself happens frame by frame. You half expect someone to cough mid-fold, or for an unzipped window to freeze in midair. And the muted color palette, cool grays, blues, and stark whites, only makes the moments of violence or warmth pop even harder. Mixed with practical sets. Rotating hotel corridor, built in a full-scale gimbal rig. Actors literally walking on walls, harnessed into twists that feel more like a vertigo dream than a movie trick. The snowy slope chase, filmed on a glacier in midwinter, where gear can die mid-take and actors' breath visibly crystallizes. No wonder the actors struck deals for insurance on frostbite. That dedication shows. And behind the scenes, stories bubble. Famously, the kid who plays the architect asked, "Is it real when I fall?" And the crew had to reassure her. Shared vulnerability in a scene meant to evoke total collapse, internal and external. Or the way they tightened up every single engineering shot to reflect dream model transitions. One wrong cut and viewers lose their seat. Such meticulous magic weaves through every frame. Critics and fans have marveled. Many praised the intellectual boldness and emotional weight, awarding it near-canonical status. Some nitpicked the complexity as too obtuse. Others feared the emotional stake was too thinly salted by sands of time illusions. But perhaps that tension between intellectual puzzle and emotional arc is precisely the point. Few films dare to juggle both. Audience reviews ranged from ecstatic to befuddled. One blogger said it best. "It's like getting lost inside your own curiosity." Another titled their post, "I don't know what I just watched, but I need to watch it again." That ambivalence is not a flaw, it's fuel. The nebulousness is the point. It whispers that any perceived lack of clarity is less about filmmakers failing to tell a story, and more about us being unwilling to step fully inside. What elevates all this further is the human performance. The lead actor, known for emotional restraint, lets down his guard here. Eyes haunted, voice light with learned self-blame. The supporting cast, from the stoic extractor to the acerbic chemist, balances gravitas and wit in ways that make you care. And the child? She becomes the unexpected anchor of optimism. By giving the most technically driven scenario a sense of childlike wonder, she grounds the mythic scale in warmth. Add to that the interviews, the director explaining how he wanted architectures you can't build in real life, but feel lived in. The actors recounting how hard it was to not break into laughter while walking sideways. The composer describing how he recorded brass ensembles in empty tunnels to capture echo as a character. We begin to see the movie as a living organism, equal parts tech, emotion, philosophy, and spectacle. By the time the credits roll, we're left with a resonance deeper than any singular twist. That spinning totem, it's not just a gimmick. It's a mirror, asking each of us, what are we clinging to? What do we need to let spin? As for the final touch, a brief outro spoken in the hush of release. The unanswered question lingers long after the screen goes dark. That's the mark of something more than entertainment. It's a cinematic experience tucked inside your own mind, waiting to be dissected in midnight talks and coffee-fueled arguments. And here, we've only scratched the surface. It begins not with an explosion or a chase, but with the hush of waves and the sand beneath a man's face. The tide rolls in slow, patient, and timeless, just like what's coming. He's washed ashore, ragged, dazed, with a gun at his side and something far heavier in his eyes. Two children build a sandcastle nearby, too distant and ethereal to be touched. Armed men find him. They don't question. Just escort him into a cavernous room where an old man waits by a dining table laid out like an offering. There's history in the silence between them, something unfinished. A small spinning top is placed on the table. The scene fractures and we fall inward. Now we're in a sleek Japanese apartment. The lighting is warm, the suits are pressed, and the atmosphere brims with corporate diplomacy. But something's off. This is a dream. We're not told, we're shown. Walls flex subtly. Water sloshes from unseen sources. The characters talk, but every word feels rehearsed. Two men, extractors, are here for secrets, not signatures. They've invaded the dream of a wealthy industrialist to pull confidential information straight from his subconscious. One leads, calculating and intense, the other steadier, his partner in both mission and history. Their method is practiced until it isn't, because something goes wrong. A figure appears, a woman with dark hair and eyes like guilt turned human. She isn't part of the plan. She sabotages everything, and the dream collapses. Buildings implode into folding geometry. The dreamer wakes, or does he? The extractor team wakes in another dream, a deeper level, trapped inside layers of illusion. Panic tightens the edges of every frame. Reality blurs. Eventually, they wake for real, or close to it. They're yanked back to the waking world, bruised and humiliated. But the dreamer Saito, the powerful magnate they tried to rob, wasn't fooled. The whole scenario was a test. And now he makes an offer. He doesn't want secrets stolen. He wants an idea planted. A concept so deeply rooted in another man's mind that he believes it came from within. This is the heart of Inception. And for that, he needs them. It's a nearly impossible task, but the reward is more than money. The extractor, Dom, is on the run, unable to return to his children in the States, burdened by criminal charges and a darker personal grief. Saito promises to erase those charges if Dom succeeds. A shot at redemption. A home. Peace. So Dom says yes, and the planning begins. First, the mark, Robert Fisher, heir to a massive energy empire, about to inherit control from his dying father. The goal is to make him choose to dissolve the company. Not because someone told him to, but because he believes it's his own decision. A false epiphany carefully manufactured. To pull this off, Dom assembles a team. There's Arthur, his right-hand man, logical and focused. Eames, a British forger with a talent for manipulating identity within dreams. Yusuf, a chemist who can brew sedatives strong enough to hold a subject across multiple dream layers. And then there's the architect. Dom can't design the dream space himself anymore. The projections of his past, especially the woman from earlier, sabotage anything he builds. He needs someone new. Enter Ariadne, a brilliant young student of architecture, skeptical but curious. Dom gives her a test. Build a maze that takes a minute to solve. When she constructs a simple square, he rejects it. She draws a spiral, then a layered grid. When she builds worlds that fold on themselves, cities bending in the sky, reflections forming in midair, he knows she's the one. He reveals the truth to her in a shared dream, watching her react as gravity distorts and the world crumbles. She should be afraid, but instead she's inspired. She joins them. Together they train. They construct dream layers. The first level, a city street that rains to disguise tension. The second, a hotel with shifting gravity and a maze-like structure. The third, a military-style hospital fortress in the snow. Each layer requires a kick, a synchronized drop or shock to wake them. But if someone dies in the dream under heavy sedation, they won't wake. They'll fall into limbo, unconstructed dream space where time stretches endlessly and the mind loses its grip. Time is short. Fisher's father is dying. When he passes, they board the same Trans-Pacific flight as Robert Fisher. The team sedates him mid-flight. Dream begins. They arrive on the first level, a rain-drenched downtown. The plan was to intercept Fisher calmly. Instead, they're ambushed, not by people but by Fisher's subconscious projections. Saito is shot. It wasn't supposed to happen. Dom realizes Fisher's mind has been militarized. He's been trained to resist extraction. Now they're improvising. They kidnap Fisher, pretending to be bodyguards saving him from the threat. Eames impersonates his godfather, Browning, inside the dream to plant the first seeds of doubt. That Browning wants Fisher to protect the company. The real goal? To push Fisher to rebel against that idea. Ariadne watches as Dom's wife projection appears again. This time in a hallway, watching with sorrow and anger. Dom insists he's fine. He's not. To go deeper, they must enter the second dream layer. The chemist stays behind in the van, driving through the city streets while the others go down another level. A dream within a dream. This layer is a hotel. Sleek, golden, eerily calm. Time slows further. Arthur oversees the mechanics here, ensuring the next kick can be coordinated. A jolt that must happen in perfect sync. But there's a problem. In the real world, the van they're sleeping in has driven off a bridge. Now it's in free fall. That changes everything. Gravity has been compromised in the hotel dream. Arthur must adjust, navigating a zero-gravity world. He floats through corridors, improvising new physics. It's as beautiful as it is terrifying. Meanwhile, in this layer, Eames continues to manipulate Fisher. He arranges a confrontation. Fisher believes they're invading his subconscious to extract secrets, but the planted idea, the inception, is disguised as protection. Fisher agrees to go deeper, to find a safe in a fortress he believes holds his father's secret message. They prepare for the third level. Saito, still wounded, insists on coming. Time is now trickling in hours across the surface but stretching like decades deeper below. The next level is cold, sharp, and mountainous, a hospital fortress under siege. The deeper they go, the closer Dom comes to unraveling. He sees her again, his wife, Mal. She's not just a memory. She's a manifestation of his guilt, his longing, and his darkest mistake. Years ago, the two of them spent what felt like decades in limbo. He had planted the idea that her world wasn't real so they could escape back to reality. But the idea persisted. When they returned, she believed they were still dreaming. She killed herself, thinking it would wake her up. Left him behind. Left the children. He carries that guilt like a shadow. Now, deep in the dream, she returns, not just as a hallucination, but as an active danger. She stabs the plan in the back. Literally. She shoots Fisher. Not in real life, but in the dream. Under the sedation, death means not waking up, but falling into limbo, which is exactly what happens. Everything splinters. The fortress erupts into chaos. The clock is ticking on all levels. In the van, Yusuf dodges traffic as water floods the streets. In the hotel, Arthur preps the kick, navigating corridors with floating bodies. In the fortress, Eames plants explosives. But the mission is in jeopardy. They've lost Fisher. And the only way to bring him back is to go after him, into limbo. Ariadne insists on going with Dom. He agrees. They fall into the deepest layer, a boundless, haunting world of broken skyscrapers, crumbling cities, and empty streets. A dream made not of plans, but of memory. Here, the rules dissolve. Time means nothing. Physics bend. And there, in the middle of it all, stands the home he once shared with her. She's waiting. This is the world they built. The place they aged together during their decades in limbo. The place she mistook for reality. He must confront her. Not the memory, but what she represents. His guilt. His inability to let go. If he doesn't, she'll destroy everything. The path from confusion to resolution unfolds with the same dreamlike intensity that has defined our journey so far. We are dropped back into the collapsing fortress of snow, where the heat of peril burns cold, and the countdown to consequence echoes louder than ever. The fortress trembles around them. Arthur races through corridors under siege, weaving between explosive charges and soldiers made of thought, determined to trigger a kick that can synchronize the collapse of 3 dream layers. He sets timers and explosives, hearts in motion with the clock. At the same moment, in the hotel suspended above a van hurtling through air and water, gravity itself decides to betray them. Bodies drift upward in slow drift, chairs drift from walls to ceilings, and gravity's reversal becomes a ballet of disorientation. Arthur's voice echoes, guiding synced actions while adrenaline floods every cell. Already, time above is nearing liftoff. Yusuf steers the van through flooded streets, each pothole and car a trigger waiting to snap the next reality. But the most dangerous terrain is the one deeper still. Dom and Ariadne, tethered to each other but unprotected by the safety nets above, push themselves into the cold abyss of limbo. Here, time spirals and memories calcify into corridors, towers, houses. They run through empty streets that look like records of a life stolen. Debris of guilt, fragments of his past with her. The home they built in limbo. Each building stands as both artifice and confession. She still lingers there. His wife, a piece of shattered mind that refuses to fade. He confesses to Ariadne. He planted the seed that brought her here, that he tricked her reality, and that in trusting his perception she came to believe their limbo home was real. She killed herself to wake up, but the plan backfired. He now carries that echo in every young soul he teaches. He's compromised, broken by that projection of love turned cruelty. Ariadne listens, her eyes steady with empathy and determination. She knows that within this broken city lies the key to bringing Fisher and Saito back from limbo. If they can kick Fisher upward, and then Saito, they can return to the second layer and let Arthur and Eames manage the higher levels. Meanwhile, back above, the coordinated countdown continues. Yusuf's van careens into a river, water surging across him. All orchestrated so that when the van crashes, it delivers one kick. Up in the hotel, Arthur counts down. In exactly the right moment, Florence's watch timer reaches 0. The room tilts, bodies drop. Chairs slam against derailed gravity. The hotel elevator becomes a catapult, setting dreams in motion. In the fortress beneath the snow, the explosives detonate. Towers collapse, walls crumble, in simulation but with visceral force. Soldiers fall as if real, and the ground shakes under the weight of disbelief. Eames races through corridors to reach Fisher's room, delivering the planted documents within the safe he forged. A message inside nods toward dissolution of the company, as if Fisher himself had discovered it. That internal conviction is the lifeblood of Inception. Just then, news. Fisher is gone, deep into limbo. The projection strangled him inside the dream. Everything shifts. The team's mission fractures. Dom watches grief-etched, but there is no time to linger. They must rescue Fisher, and then Saito, then ascend through all dream levels in perfect harmony. In limbo, the collapsing skyscrapers begin to gather attention. Dom and Ariadne sprint through the skyscraper courtyard they once dwelled in, chasing after phantom glimpses of Fisher and Saito. Structures behind them crumble in slow-mo. Shards of glass form stained glass reflections of human grief. Dom spots Fisher standing still, apathetic, surrounded by nothingness that feels vast and crushing. He calls out. At first Fisher doesn't respond, lost in limbo's emptiness. Ariadne gently reminds Dom they need to provoke a kick. Make Fisher fall. She takes the lead, grabbing Fisher by arm. She shoves him hard over a balcony edge. He plummets. A kick upward penetrates layers above. One by one, dreams cascade toward waking. Yet Saito remains. The stakes rise again. Saito must wake. Without him, Dom loses his chance to return home. Dom, eyes fiery, leaves Fisher behind to chase Saito deeper into the ruins of memory. He finds Saito at the base of his limbo world. The same aged, haunted husband who built these dream cities. Saito two steps off the edge, but his fall is endless. Time slows into eternity as the edges of consciousness fray. Dom speaks plainly. You can't stay here. This isn't real. With conviction born of desperate love for home, he pushes Saito over that final edge. The kick rings upward across levels. The cascade begins again. The fortress dissolves. The hotel corridor rights itself. Water drains from gravity's reverse, and bodies awake one floor at a time. In the hotel lobby, Arthur lifts Fisher from unconsciousness. Outside the van, Yusuf emerges from water-soaked streets, breathing heavy but alive. Each member surfaces from dream layers, and in the cockpit of the aircraft, with nothing but sky beneath and ocean above, Dom and Saito reappear, waking to the flight attendants securing coffee. The world snaps back to normal, or what feels like normal. There is gentle commotion and confusion as they exit the plane in Tokyo. Fisher is wheeled out, clutching the message they planted. His expression is vacant at first, but then a soft inflection. In a subtle moment while helping him from his seat, his godfather powerless expression reveals something deeper has taken root. He calls his father and calmly announces plans to break the company into separate autonomous brands. An idea unforced but sharp in its execution. Mission completed. In the chaos of the airport, Dom meets with Saito for the first time in years without fear of parody through dream layers. Saito steps forward, applauding subtly. He mentions paroled freedom and tells Dom to expect clearance papers soon. Dom's posture softens. His cell phone vibrates. His children's mother has been calling. Home rings in his ear, promise alive. But Saito has one more idea. A test. They run a final step as proof. Dom is escorted out into broad daylight. Behind him, he hears one last ring of the top, that spinning toy he left on the table long ago. The camera doesn't let him see where it falls. It lingers on the top spin. As Dom steps forward, we realize that throughout the intricate mission, the ambiguity still holds. Did he wake? Did he resign himself to another layer? Was the world at the airport real, or just another crafted space? In that extended moment's hesitation, the score deepens. Edith Piaf's slowed-down anthem swells beneath orchestral brass. The top rotates. Time feels subjective again. Then cut to black. No answers. Only resonance. Only question. In those final breaths, the film does something rare. It hands the audience the narrative's reins and says, "You finished this." Was the idea truly his? Did liberation come? Did he return home? Or is he still chasing the horizon of a dream? What matters is that by seeing that mission through, by watching Dom rise, fail, jeopardize, confess, fight, and finally surrender to something beyond logic, you're invited into your own psyche. The film's resolution isn't closure. It's permission. Permission to believe that thoughts matter. That love, guilt, intention, and grief shape reality more than any law of physics. So when the credits roll, you sit there, blank eyes fixed on the spinning totem, and you feel something shift within. Maybe relief, maybe doubt, maybe awe. And the last whisper of the narrative isn't spoken. It's felt, trembling on the edge of consciousness. It begins, always, with a man trying to find his way home. Not from a place, but from a state of mind. He's running through dreams, vaulting through memories, chasing ghosts that don't want to be exorcised. He's brilliant, obsessive, deeply flawed, haunted by love and racked by guilt. There's a stillness in his eyes that hides the war inside him. This is not the usual sort of hero. He's not trying to save the world, just one small corner of it. The corner where his children wait, and where the shadow of a woman he loved and lost still lingers like a scar burned into the walls of every dream he touches. He used to build those dreams himself. His mind once designed impossible cities, mazes that twisted in on themselves, staircases that never ended. But something went wrong. He lost control not of the architecture, but of the emotions rooted within it. Memories became enemies. She started to show up uninvited, her smile, her voice, her need to pull him back into the past. After that, he stopped building. He handed the job off to others. But he never stopped running from what he'd built. And he never stopped searching for a way to be free. Next to him walks a man who couldn't be more different. Level-headed, precise, a planner in a world where logic collapses at the edges of consciousness. He deals in rules, in synchronized kicks and calculated exits. He's not drawn to the metaphysical weight of the job. They're there to do a job, and that's what matters. Where the dreamer is emotional, this man is mechanical but not cold. There's loyalty in him, quiet and unshakable. He doesn't need to say much to show what he believes in. He doesn't judge even when things fall apart. He's the one you want holding the line when gravity disappears and the elevator cable becomes your lifeline back to reality. Then there's the girl with the eyes that see too much and the brain that moves faster than anyone expected. She starts as a student, folding paper mazes in a lecture hall. But when he sees what she can do, what her imagination can conjure, he brings her in. She's the architect now, the one who shapes the levels of dream space, the designer of worlds built for deception. But she's more than that. She's the conscience he didn't expect. Where others follow the mission, she keeps asking why. Why is your dead wife showing up in every dream? Why are you hiding pain inside the very structure we're relying on to survive? She pushes because she cares, and because she's smart enough to know the whole thing will collapse unless someone forces the truth into the open. Her designs become a battleground not just for dreams, but for emotions too. She builds cities that defy gravity and hallways that curve in circles. But her real genius is in understanding the human mind. She sees that memory is the most dangerous kind of architecture. And in the deepest levels, where time distorts and meaning unravels, she's the one who holds the line between dream and madness. She watches him grieve. She helps him let go. Without her, there is no return. There's also the forger, a sharp-tongued, impeccably dressed chameleon who turns dreams into theaters and himself into anyone he needs to be. He's the opposite of the straight-arrow planner. He thrives on chaos, bends the rules and smirks through danger. But underneath the charm is precision. He doesn't just impersonate. He understands people deeply enough to know what version of a person will move the dreamer's heart or twist their thinking. It's not acting. It's psychological engineering. He's funny, sure. He keeps things light when the plan gets heavy. But when it matters most, when the dream collapses or the subconscious lashes out, he's already 2 steps ahead. He doesn't just manipulate the dream. He reads its rhythm. And when it comes time to plant the seed, the inception itself, he's the one who understands how to lace an idea with emotional truth. It's not just about being clever. It's about getting someone to believe they came to a conclusion all on their own. That's his art. Then there's the chemist. Soft-spoken, careful, crucial. He doesn't dive into the dreams like the others. He stays behind, driving the van through a rain-slick city while his team sleeps in the back, plunging deeper into layer after layer of subconscious space. He's the one who keeps their minds stable. The sedative he creates is no ordinary drug. It's a scientific miracle that lets them dream within dreams, and dream even deeper. He understands that biology can be just as fragile as architecture when you're dealing with time stretched into decades inside a single flight. He's not flashy. You won't remember his one-liners or his bravado. But when the world collapses and reality teeters on the edge, you'll remember him at the wheel, hands tight on the steering, holding steady as the bridge vanishes and the water rushes in. That quiet kind of courage is its own form of heroism. The target, though, is a different kind of character altogether. He doesn't even know he's part of the mission. He's grieving a father he never truly connected with, inheriting an empire he isn't sure he wants. He's isolated, emotionally closed off, trying to make sense of a legacy he didn't ask for. They choose him because he's vulnerable, ripe for suggestion. But it's more than that. It's because they believe they can give him peace by taking something away. What unfolds in his mind isn't just manipulation. It's therapy dressed as subterfuge. They build a story for him. That his godfather wants him to protect the empire, that his father left him a secret message, that he alone has the strength to break the chain. The plan is to make him believe it. But what happens is more delicate. When he finds the pinwheel, a symbol from his childhood, tied to real love and memory, he doesn't just choose to destroy the company. He chooses to believe that his father loved him, in his own cold and quiet way. That idea changes him, not because it was forced, but because it came wrapped in the shape of personal revelation. It was a lie that gave him truth. That's the paradox. Floating around them all is the man who made the mission possible. The businessman, the one with resources and connections. He begins as a client but becomes a kind of partner. When the dream within the dream becomes a war zone, he stays in the game, taking a bullet and holding on while the team pushes deeper. He's not just funding the operation. He becomes part of its success or failure. In the final layer, when reality and limbo blur, it's his mind they need to rescue. He promised that if the mission succeeded, the past would be erased. That the man running from murder charges, unable to go home, would be given freedom. But by the end, he too is pulled into the question of what's real and what isn't. When he opens his eyes on the plane and makes a call that seems to clear everything away, he may be a savior. Or he may still be part of the dream. We're never told. That's the magic. And then there's her. She is not alive. But she is very much present. A specter of the past, a whisper in the hallways, a force that walks through walls and ruins plans with the ease of a thought. She was once his wife. They lived a lifetime together, in dream time, decades past. When he planted the idea that her world wasn't real, he saved her. Or so he thought. But that seed grew roots. Even after they woke, she believed they were still asleep. She jumped. She died. And yet she lives on in his mind. Not as memory but as an active, destructive force. She shows up in every dream. She pulls him off mission. She kills key players. She reminds him again and again that he can't let go. Her smile is seductive and sad. She is both the love of his life and the personification of his guilt. As long as he carries her, he can't move on. But in the deepest layer, in limbo, in the city they built together, she waits for him one last time. And there, he does what he couldn't before. He tells her she's not real, that he has to let her go. He chooses the present over the past, the children over the ghost, love that is alive over love that died. That moment isn't loud. It's quiet, but it echoes all the way up through every dream level. That's the real kick, not the synchronized explosions or the physics-defying elevator drop. The real trigger is emotional release, the decision to wake up. And when he finally does, if he does, the world seems brighter but also stranger. The children run toward him, their faces finally revealed. Laughter. Home. But on the table nearby, a small spinning top spins and spins, teasing the edge of truth. Each character brought him to that moment. Some with calculations, others with empathy, one with destruction. All necessary. Long before the film's unforgettable spinning top word into motion, the idea was quietly gestating in the mind of its creator, Christopher Nolan. It wasn't a sudden spark or a lightning bolt of inspiration, but rather a slow-burning obsession, an idea that haunted him for years before it could take shape. Back in the early 2000s, Nolan was toying with the concept of a heist, but not the typical bank job or jewel theft. This was a heist of the mind. A journey through layered realities, where dreams weren't just dreams, but battlegrounds of memory, guilt, and desire. The project lingered for years in development hell as Nolan refined the emotional core beneath the sci-fi spectacle. It was only after nearly a decade of persistent rewriting and reimagining that the idea crystallized into the mind-bending story that would eventually take shape on screen. One of the most remarkable and perhaps strangest truths about the film is how little it relied on computer-generated effects, especially given the dizzying visual spectacles it presented. In an era dominated by green screens and digital wizardry, Nolan made an unusual choice: to build physical sets wherever possible and rely on real, tangible environments. Out of nearly 500 visual effects shots, only a handful were fully digital. This decision wasn't just a technical preference. It was an aesthetic and emotional choice. Nolan wanted the dream worlds to feel lived in, tactile, and unpredictable, not like polished digital illusions, but like real places where physics bent but surfaces still had weight. Take, for example, the infamous Penrose Stairs sequence, the seemingly endless staircase looping back on itself like an Escher drawing come to life. Instead of creating it entirely with CGI, the crew painstakingly constructed multiple sets with precise angles, then combined these in camera with careful editing and lens tricks. 12 cardboard mock-ups and several partial full-scale versions were built to simulate this impossible architecture. It was a puzzle not just of set design but of perspective, an optical illusion crafted through human hands and cameras rather than computers. This commitment to practical effects lent a disorienting authenticity that still baffles viewers years later. Then there's the gravity-defying hallway fight scene, where Joseph Gordon-Levitt executes flawless choreography while the set rotates a full 360 degrees around him. Far from a green screen stunt, the rotating corridor was a massive physical rig constructed inside a warehouse in London. Imagine being strapped in, suspended by wires, and performing martial arts moves as the world flips upside down around you. Gordon-Levitt trained intensely to endure the physical toll, often filming for 6-day stretches straight, pushing through exhaustion while maintaining perfect timing to match the spinning set. The precision and endurance required were enormous, yet the result is one of the film's most memorable and immersive moments: an actual physical feat masquerading as a dream's surreal distortion. The production's commitment to practical stunts extended to the car chase sequence, where a van careens off a bridge into a river. This wasn't a digital effect. Instead, the filmmakers designed a giant air cannon to launch the vehicle with exacting force and trajectory, capturing the crash over and over again with slow-motion cameras. The actors had to perform underwater scenes with real scuba gear, holding their breath for minutes at a time to create authentic panic and immersion. Months were spent perfecting this sequence alone, a testament to the painstaking care taken to ground the fantastical story in visceral reality. The snowy mountain fortress scenes, which unfold in a breathtaking, hostile alpine environment, also have a curious backstory. The location was a remote ski resort in Alberta, Canada, known as Fortress Mountain. Ironically, just a week before filming was set to begin, the area had almost no snow. The crew and local officials worried that the iconic sequences would be ruined. Then, as if summoned by the film's need, one of the worst blizzards of the season struck, blanketing the mountain in fresh, deep snow just in time. This serendipitous weather event transformed a production challenge into one of the film's most stunning backdrops, capturing nature's unpredictable hand in a movie about dreams and chance. In the Paris cafe scenes where reality itself fractures, the explosions were shot with surprising realism. Because the filmmakers were filming in a historic district with strict regulations, they couldn't simply blow things up digitally or risk damage with huge charges. Instead, they employed high-pressure nitrogen canisters to create powerful blasts of debris and force, all carefully controlled but wildly effective. The actors genuinely flinched and reacted to the physical impact of the blasts, creating an unfiltered tension rarely seen in modern action sequences. Raw reactions born of real danger rather than computer simulation. The film's iconic totem, a small spinning top that becomes a symbol of uncertainty, has its own curious origin. Nolan found the original spinning top prop in his own home, something from his childhood, but discovered it was too difficult to spin smoothly for filming. So the production swapped it for a slightly different version that was easier to work with on camera. Yet that simple object became a lightning rod for decades of debate among fans, symbolizing the boundary between reality and illusion. Nolan has insisted he knows whether the top falls or not at the end, but has never revealed the answer, preferring to leave audiences suspended in tantalizing doubt. Casting choices were full of surprises as well. While the lead actor was Nolan's first and only choice, Leonardo DiCaprio, other key roles saw a rotating door of possibilities. The architect of the dream worlds, the young woman whose designs shape entire subconscious landscapes, was offered to a range of actresses, including some unexpected names like Emily Blunt and Rachel McAdams. Even Taylor Swift was reportedly considered at one point. Eventually, the role landed with Ellen Page, whose subtle and intelligent performance gave the film its emotional grounding. This glimpse behind the curtain reveals how many different trajectories the film could have taken, and how serendipitous casting choices can change the whole story. Costume design on the film required unusual technical attention to detail because of the shifting gravity and rotating sets. For instance, to sell the effect of weightlessness, men's ties were carefully tacked down so they wouldn't flop wildly during the spinning hallway scene. Shoe laces and other clothing elements were wired or fixed in place, designed with the physics of the scene in mind. This meticulous attention to such small details helped sell the illusion that the characters were really navigating impossible dream landscapes where the laws of physics no longer applied. Musically, the score is almost a character itself. Hans Zimmer crafted a sonic experience that was not just background but emotional architecture, drawing inspiration from a French song famously associated with letting go of regret. He slowed down and warped the song's melody, so that its rhythm doubled as a clue to the layered passage of time within the dreams. The thunderous brass motifs, the haunting electric guitar played by Johnny Marr from the Smiths, and the echoing chimes all combine into a soundtrack that's as much a hypnotic force as the visuals. Even the way the film was presented to international audiences highlights its complexity. In Japan, for example, TV broadcasts included on-screen captions during dream sequences indicating the current dream level to help viewers keep track. This was an unusual precaution, a rare admission from filmmakers that their narrative complexity might require a bit of extra guidance for mass audiences. Behind the scenes, the mood on set was often bittersweet. One of the actors playing a crucial role, the father of the key target character, was battling a terminal illness during filming. His presence lent a poignant gravity to the scenes of family legacy and loss, an undercurrent of real mortality running beneath the fiction of dreams. Perhaps the strangest of all production details is that Nolan drew heavily on his own dreams for inspiration rather than scientific or psychological research. He described how, during college, he'd wake up early for free breakfast and then fall back asleep, slipping into lucid dreams that played out vivid, emotional scenes. This personal dreaming experience gave the film its raw, emotional heartbeat, grounding its wild visual flights in authentic human feeling. All these strange facts and stories show how the film is a mosaic of real, physical craft and emotional vulnerability. The film's genius lies in how it balances huge, surreal set pieces with intimate, human storytelling. It's a dream built by hands and hearts, constructed out of snowstorms timed by fate, spinning hallways engineered by physics, and an emotional weight that keeps pulling the audience back to the core of what it means to remember, to lose, and to hope. From the very first spark of an idea to the final cut on the editing floor, the making of this film was a journey as intricate and layered as the story it tells. It's a world where artistry met engineering, where passion met precision, and where the creative risks taken behind the scenes paid off in unforgettable moments on screen. The production process was anything but straightforward. It was a feat of imagination and meticulous craftsmanship that stretched the boundaries of filmmaking at the time. The director, known for his meticulous approach and refusal to rely heavily on CGI, approached this project with a clear vision, to ground the surreal in the tangible. He wanted audiences not only to be dazzled by the extraordinary visuals, but also to feel physically immersed in the environments. This meant constructing massive, real sets rather than relying on green screens, and designing practical effects that would challenge actors and technicians alike. From day one, it was about building a world where the impossible felt concrete. One of the earliest production challenges was how to visually represent the dream worlds without making them feel like just another fantasy movie. The solution was to anchor them in reality but allow physics and architecture to twist and break in subtle ways. To that end, the production team created extensive, modular sets, often combining real locations with purpose-built constructions, to create shifting, disorienting spaces that could be manipulated practically. For example, a Parisian street was recreated on a backlit, with buildings constructed to tilt and fold, creating the illusion of a collapsing reality. The physical manipulation of these sets required precise engineering and coordination among construction crews, camera operators, and stunt teams. The famous rotating hallway sequence, where gravity seems to invert and characters tumble along the walls and ceiling, was one of the most complex undertakings. The set itself was a massive gimbal, a large, enclosed corridor mounted on a rotating frame. To film the scene, the set rotated while the actors moved inside, simulating zero gravity. This required careful choreography to synchronize the actors' movements with the rotation, ensuring the illusion worked perfectly on camera. Joseph Gordon-Levitt, who played the resourceful and calm Arthur, trained for weeks to perfect his timing and movement. He performed most of his own stunts, suspended by wires, enduring the physical strain of the rotating set for hours at a time. The grueling nature of the shoot tested the entire crew's stamina, but the payoff was a scene that has become iconic for its breathtaking inventiveness. Behind the scenes, the production embraced an almost obsessive level of detail. The costume designers didn't just think about how clothes looked, they considered how fabrics would behave in zero-gravity or spinning environments. For instance, ties were carefully pinned down to prevent unnatural flapping during the rotating hallway shoot, and shoelaces were wired to stay in place. These subtle touches added a layer of realism that most viewers never consciously notice, but that subconsciously enhances the believability of the dream logic. Casting the film brought together a group of actors who would each bring layers of complexity to their roles. The lead was a sure choice, but supporting roles saw a revolving door of contenders early on, with some surprising names considered. The actress who would become the dream architect was almost someone else entirely. Early discussions included several actresses known for their nuanced performances, reflecting the director's desire for emotional depth within the fantastical plot. When the final cast was locked, chemistry readings helped solidify the relationships that would anchor the story, ensuring the interactions felt grounded despite the mind-bending plot. The production locations themselves told a story. The snowy fortress scenes were shot in Alberta, Canada, on a mountain called Fortress Mountain. Interestingly, the crew arrived to find almost no snow on the ground, which threatened to delay shooting. However, nature intervened with a massive snowfall just days before filming started, blanketing the mountain in perfect wintry conditions. This stroke of luck added an authentic, dramatic quality to the scenes that no artificial snow could replicate. The crew often spoke of that snowstorm as almost providential, as if the environment itself was collaborating in the filmmaking process. Another striking production story involves the dramatic van crash sequence. Rather than rely on CGI, the filmmakers built a custom air cannon to launch the vehicle precisely and safely into the water. Multiple takes were needed to capture the perfect shot, meaning the stunt team had to reset and reload the rig over and over. The actors, submerged in water during the shoot, trained with scuba gear to hold their breath and deliver convincing performances underwater. Safety protocols were strict, but the actors admitted to feeling genuine panic during these scenes, which translated powerfully on screen. The blend of technical ingenuity and human endurance was emblematic of the entire production. Music was another crucial part of the production process. The director collaborated closely with the composer, who sought to create a score that would not just underscore the action but act as a narrative device itself. Drawing inspiration from a French song known for its themes of regret and letting go, the composer slowed and morphed its melody into an echoing motif that permeates the film score. This technique helped convey the passage of time across the multiple dream layers, using music as a kind of emotional clock. Guitar work from a legendary rock musician added an unexpected texture to the soundtrack, blending classic rock tones with orchestral grandeur to produce a soundscape both haunting and exhilarating. On set, the atmosphere was a curious mix of high tension and camaraderie. The physical demands of shooting the complex sequences, especially those involving rotating sets, underwater scenes, and intense stunt work, meant long hours and meticulous preparation. The actors formed strong bonds as they supported each other through the grueling schedule. One actor noted that the process felt like entering a shared dream state, Not just metaphorically, but in the sense that everyone had to trust one another completely to make the impossible happen. The director's personal touch was evident throughout. Known for his perfectionism, he often rehearsed scenes for hours before filming, sometimes shooting multiple takes from various angles to ensure every detail was just right. This exacting style extended to post-production, where the editing team labored over piecing together complex sequences that balanced narrative clarity with visual spectacle. The challenge was immense, maintaining audience engagement and emotional connection while navigating a story that folds in on itself like a puzzle. A subtle but fascinating aspect of production was the inclusion of meta-references and symbolism within the story and design. The dream architect character, for example, was designed to represent the production designer, the person who literally builds the film's worlds. The protagonist mirrored the director, the methodical planner represented the producer, and other team members aligned with different filmmaking roles. This layered approach added a dimension that film buffs love to unpack, revealing the movie as not just a story about dreams but a reflection on the filmmaking process itself. One fun but little-known anecdote involved the director's family. His cousin was cast in a small role as a flight attendant, a detail so subtle that most viewers never notice it. Yet it's a charming example of how personal this film was to those involved. The production felt like a family affair in many ways, a labor of love that drew on close relationships to build a world that feels intimate even as it explores vast psychological themes. The visual effects team also deserves a spotlight. Though the film avoided heavy CGI, the few digital effects used were crafted with care. For example, the collapsing city sequences were created by combining miniatures, digital composites, and practical effects. This blend created a rich texture that feels both hyper-real and dreamlike. The team used cutting-edge software, but always with an eye toward maintaining the grounded feel the director demanded. Interestingly, some practical effects involved unusual materials. For certain scenes, the crew used rubber-coated wires, large-scale mechanical rigs, and even custom-built sand tanks to simulate crumbling dreamscapes. The level of craftsmanship was extraordinary, with artisans working alongside engineers to create effects that would withstand the scrutiny of high-definition cameras while still feeling organic and unpredictable. Throughout the shoot, the director maintained a tight grip on the film's tone. Despite the complex and often surreal visuals, he was determined that the story's emotional core, grief, guilt, love, and redemption, would always shine through. This philosophy guided choices from casting and dialogue to lighting and framing. The production team often described him as a storyteller first, technician second, a rare combination in a genre often dominated by spectacle. The film's marketing and publicity also carried interesting stories. Trailers and teasers were crafted to intrigue without giving too much away, a challenge given the film's layered plot. Early screenings had audiences scratching their heads, and the studio debated how much to explain. Eventually, word of mouth and repeat viewings helped the film find its footing, becoming a cultural phenomenon that rewarded close attention and discussion. Even in post-production, surprises awaited. The editing team found that some sequences initially intended to be longer had to be trimmed to maintain pacing. Certain dream layers that were complex on paper proved too confusing in practice, so scenes were reworked or rearranged. The collaboration between director and editors was intense, involving numerous test screenings and revisions. This process helped fine-tune the narrative puzzle so that, while still challenging, it remained emotionally resonant and visually captivating. To sum it up, the production of this film was a masterclass in blending visionary ambition with practical ingenuity. Every detail, from the carefully constructed sets and mind-bending stunts to the symbolic storytelling and evocative music, reflects a commitment to craftsmanship and narrative depth. The film's creation was not just about making a spectacle, but about building a dream from the ground up, a testament to the power of human creativity and collaboration in the face of seemingly impossible challenges. From the very moment the film begins, it's clear that setting isn't just a backdrop. It's a living, breathing character that shapes the entire narrative. The world this story inhabits feels simultaneously familiar and surreal, crafted with such care and intention that each location is a portal into different layers of the mind and emotion. The filmmakers understood that to navigate a plot so intricate, the settings needed to do more than just look beautiful. They had to evoke mood, hint at hidden meanings, and enhance the story's psychological depth. The film opens in a bustling cityscape, grounded in recognizable reality, yet immediately tinged with a subtle sense of unease. The urban environment, filled with towering buildings and crowded streets, acts as a metaphor for the protagonist's mind, structured and busy, but fragile beneath the surface. The choice of location was intentional, a city that reflects modernity and complexity, full of sharp edges and looming shadows. The architecture itself plays a critical role, with clean lines and glass facades that catch and fracture light, hinting at the fractured layers of consciousness the story explores. As the narrative dives deeper into the dream worlds, the settings shift dramatically, evolving into surreal landscapes that blend the real and the impossible. One of the most memorable dreamscapes is a European city that seems to fold onto itself, a dizzying place where streets curve and buildings collapse in impossible angles, like something from an M.C. Escher painting. This effect was achieved through a combination of carefully constructed sets and clever cinematography, creating a disorienting space that perfectly mirrors the unstable nature of dreams. The folding streets are not just visual trickery. They embody the confusion and emotional turmoil of the characters, a physical manifestation of their mental states. This city isn't just a random choice. It draws heavily on Parisian elements, with cafes, narrow alleyways, and grand staircases that evoke romance and history. Yet, the set design deliberately omits certain realistic details, stripping the environment of the usual clutter of daily life to heighten the dreamlike atmosphere. The result is a place that feels both familiar and untrustworthy, enhancing the suspense and the emotional stakes. Through the lens of the camera, every corner, every window, becomes a gateway into a shifting reality. Another key setting is the stark, imposing mountain fortress, which contrasts sharply with the urban dreamscapes. Located high in the snow-covered peaks of Alberta, Canada, this location feels cold and isolating, a fortress of memories and regrets. The snowy environment isn't just beautiful, it's symbolic. Snow, with its purity and silence, contrasts with the protagonist's internal turmoil, offering a visual metaphor for loneliness and the coldness of loss. The fortress itself, with its harsh angles and fortified walls, suggests emotional barriers, secrets locked away deep within the mind. Cinematography here uses wide, expansive shots to emphasize isolation and vulnerability, with the characters dwarfed by the vast white landscape. The cold blue tones dominate the palette, enhancing the feeling of desolation. Yet, even in this stark environment, moments of warmth emerge through close-ups and soft lighting, capturing intimate emotions amidst the cold. The mountain setting is not just a stage for action, but a reflection of inner conflict, perfectly matched to the story's themes of grief and memory. Water is another recurring element in the film settings, appearing in both literal and metaphorical ways. The characters often find themselves submerged or surrounded by water, which symbolizes the fluidity and danger of the subconscious mind. The underwater sequences were shot with painstaking realism, involving actors trained to hold their breath and perform complex movements in tanks designed to mimic the weightlessness of dreams. The shimmering, distorted visuals of the water create a hypnotic mood, suggesting the blurring of reality and illusion. In contrast, some settings are warm and intimate, such as the protagonist's family home, filled with soft lighting and cozy textures. These moments provide emotional anchors within the labyrinthine plot, reminding viewers of the personal stakes beneath the mind-bending spectacle. The home is a place of memory and longing, its design infused with nostalgic details that evoke loss and hope. Cinematography here favors gentle close-ups and natural light, creating a sense of safety and familiarity amid the chaos of dreams. The film's use of color is subtle but powerful. Each dream layer is distinguished by its palette, helping viewers track shifts in time and place without overt exposition. The city scenes use cool, muted tones, while the mountain fortress is dominated by icy blues and whites. Underwater scenes shimmer with liquid blues and greens, and warmer colors punctuate moments of emotional clarity. This careful color coding supports the narrative's complex structure, guiding the audience through layers of consciousness with visual cues that feel instinctive rather than forced. Lighting is another crucial cinematic tool. The filmmakers used chiaroscuro, strong contrasts between light and shadow, to reflect the characters' psychological struggles. Shadows creep along walls and faces, suggesting hidden fears and unresolved guilt. In dream sequences, lighting often shifts abruptly or unnaturally, reinforcing the sense that the rules of reality no longer apply. Soft, diffused light baths intimate scenes, while harsh, directional light heightens tension and drama. This dynamic use of lighting shapes the film's tone, moving fluidly between warmth and menace. Camera movement is similarly expressive. The film employs steady, deliberate tracking shots to immerse viewers in the intricacies of the dream worlds, often moving fluidly through spaces as if the camera itself is floating through consciousness. During moments of chaos or emotional intensity, handheld cameras add a jittery, urgent feel, heightening suspense. The rotating hallway scene, famously executed on a physical rig, showcases innovative cinematography that bends perception and defies gravity. The camera's choreography in this sequence is a masterclass in blending technical precision with narrative purpose, allowing viewers to experience the disorientation of the dream firsthand. Depth of field is also carefully manipulated to guide focus. Sharp foregrounds contrast with blurred backgrounds or vice versa, echoing the film's themes of attention and memory. Close-ups reveal subtle emotional shifts, while wider shots emphasize the surreal scale of the dreamscapes. This balance keeps the story grounded in human experience even as it ventures into fantastic realms. The production also embraced architectural symbolism throughout its settings. Buildings and interiors often incorporate elements of classical design, columns, arches, staircases, that evoke stability and tradition, only to be disrupted by the dream's instability. This clash between order and chaos visually underscores the narrative's exploration of control and loss. The deliberate decay or crumbling of certain structures mirrors the character's mental states, with physical spaces eroding as memories fade or trauma resurfaces. Sound design plays a complementary role in crafting atmosphere. The ambient sounds of city streets, the crunch of snow underfoot, the muffled underwater noises, all contribute to the immersive quality of each setting. These naturalistic audio cues are blended with more surreal elements, echoes, distorted voices, mechanical hums, that heighten the otherworldly mood. The interplay of sound and image deepens the sensory experience, making the audience feel fully embedded in the layers of dream and reality. One of the most fascinating choices was to film in practical locations rather than rely heavily on digital environments. Real-world streets, buildings, and landscapes were adapted to serve the story, providing textures and details that CGI often struggles to replicate. This choice demanded inventive set design and logistics but resulted in an authenticity that grounds the film's fantasy. Even the smallest details, peeling paint on walls, reflections in puddles, the way light filters through leaves, add to the richness of the world. The filmmaker's dedication to authenticity extended to shooting formats and lenses. Using a mix of anamorphic lenses and digital cameras, they captured expansive vistas and intimate close-ups with clarity and cinematic depth. Anamorphic lenses, known for their distinctive lens flares and wide aspect ratios, give scenes a grand, epic quality that contrasts with the claustrophobic moments in tight interiors. The cinematographer carefully balanced these tools to serve the emotional arc of the story, ensuring that every frame feels intentional and meaningful. The overall production design also reveals a seamless blend of influences. Modernist architecture, brutalist structures, and historic European styles mingle to create a timeless quality. This eclecticism helps the film avoid being pinned to any one era or place, reinforcing the idea that these are spaces constructed by memory and imagination. The dreamscapes borrow from art, history, and culture but remain untethered, like vivid hallucinations. Costumes, too, reflect the shifting nature of the film's reality. Characters wear stylish, tailored clothing that adapts subtly to each dream layer, helping to define their roles and psychological states. The wardrobe combines classic elegance with practical considerations. Fabrics and cuts were chosen to accommodate stunt work and the peculiar physics of rotating sets. The attention to detail here is remarkable. For instance, ties and collars are carefully pinned or weighted to behave naturally during scenes of altered gravity. As the narrative unfolds, the settings themselves evolve, reflecting changes in the protagonist's psyche. The dream worlds become increasingly unstable, with crumbling buildings, shifting landscapes, and flooding interiors signaling the fragility of memory and identity. These transformations are mirrored in the cinematography, which becomes more dynamic and unpredictable, using handheld shots, tilted angles, and rapid cuts to evoke the characters' growing desperation and confusion. Lighting shifts from naturalistic to expressionistic as the emotional stakes rise. Warm glows give way to cold shadows, and the interplay of light and dark grows more dramatic. This visual language communicates the internal battles raging beneath the surface, turning abstract feelings into tangible images. It's a dance of illumination and obscurity that draws viewers deeper into the film's haunting world. In the end, the film's settings and cinematic elements do far more than serve the story. They become a language of their own, telling silent tales about memory, loss, and the human desire to hold on and let go. The blend of practical effects, evocative design, and masterful cinematography creates a rich tapestry that invites repeated exploration. Each frame rewards close attention, revealing new details and nuances that deepen the emotional experience. It's a rare film where every visual choice, from location to lighting to camera movement, feels imbued with meaning, where setting is inseparable from story. This synthesis of place and emotion is what gives the film its lasting power and why it continues to captivate audiences long after the credits roll. Behind every great film lies a treasure trove of stories that rarely make it to the screen. Tales of perseverance, creativity, camaraderie, and unexpected moments that shape the final masterpiece in ways audiences never fully realize. The making of this particular film was no exception. It was a journey marked by technical feats, emotional highs and lows, and a unique spirit of collaboration that brought together a diverse group of artists and technicians who all shared a singular passion to bring this ambitious vision to life. One of the earliest and most enduring memories from the set involves the rotating hallway sequence, now legendary for its dizzying visuals and seamless execution. This scene, which defies gravity and perception, was a marvel of engineering and patience. The set itself was built on a massive gimbal capable of full rotation, but what few know is how physically demanding it was for the cast. Joseph Gordon-Levitt, who played the resourceful and steady Arthur, spent hours rehearsing movements that had to perfectly sync with the rotating set. On the first day of shooting, the cast and crew discovered just how intense the experience would be. Actors reported feeling disoriented and even nauseous as the entire corridor spun around them. Yet, the spirit on set was surprisingly upbeat. Between takes, the actors would share stories and jokes, trying to keep the mood light despite the exhaustion. There's a story that Joseph once broke character because he couldn't help but laugh as the gravity-defying stunt went slightly off-sync, causing a minor stumble that the director found so amusing he decided to keep the take. The crew affectionately nicknamed the rig the spin machine, and it became a rite of passage among the team to master moving gracefully within its rotating walls. The director, known for his meticulous nature, was deeply involved in every detail of this sequence. He often personally operated the rig controls to ensure the rotation speed matched the actor's timing. This hands-on approach earned him both admiration and gentle teasing from the crew, who dubbed him the captain of the ship on days when the set was turning upside down, quite literally. But his dedication paid off, as this scene became one of the film's signature moments, a technical and artistic triumph that set a new standard for practical effects. Another fascinating behind-the-scenes story revolves around the mountain fortress scenes, shot in the harsh, snowy wilderness of Alberta, Canada. The cast and crew faced brutal cold conditions that tested their endurance. Temperatures often plunged well below freezing, making every outdoor shot a battle against frostbite and equipment malfunctions. The production's costume department worked overtime designing layered outfits that looked authentic on camera but could also keep the actors warm. Hand warmers became a constant companion for everyone on set. Despite the cold, the remote location fostered a strong sense of community. The crew lived together in nearby lodges, sharing meals and stories by firelight. One memorable night, the entire team gathered outside to watch the northern lights dance across the sky, a magical moment that brought a collective sense of awe and gratitude. Several cast members later said this experience deepened their connection to the story, feeling as though nature itself was part of the film's fabric. Filming the intense van crash scene presented its own unique challenges. The director was adamant about capturing as much practical action as possible to heighten realism. To that end, a custom-built air cannon was created to safely launch the vehicle into a lake, but the precision required was extraordinary. Multiple takes were necessary, and each reset involved intricate preparations. The stunt team worked tirelessly, often rehearsing under tight time constraints and unpredictable weather. Actors involved in the underwater sequences underwent extensive training, learning breath control and safety techniques. One of the lead actors reportedly held his breath for over 2 minutes during filming, impressing both crew and co-stars. Safety divers were always on standby, but the emotional intensity of the scene was palpable. Several times, performers had to be gently coaxed out of the water after takes because they'd pushed themselves to their limits. This commitment to authenticity is a thread that runs through the entire production, reflecting a shared desire to blur the lines between fiction and reality. The chemistry among the cast was another element that enriched the production. Although the story explores complex, sometimes tense relationships, off-screen the actors form tight bonds. They often describe the shoot as an emotional roller coaster, with moments of deep vulnerability balanced by light-hearted camaraderie. One particular anecdote tells of an impromptu talent show held during a rain delay, where cast and crew showcased hidden skills ranging from stand-up comedy to musical performances. These spontaneous gatherings not only lifted spirits but also strengthened trust and friendship, essential ingredients for the demanding scenes that followed. Behind the camera, the director fostered a collaborative atmosphere that encouraged input from all departments. He believed that great filmmaking was a team sport and regularly held informal brainstorming sessions where cinematographers, production designers, and even grip and lighting technicians could share ideas. This openness resulted in innovative solutions, like using specially designed cranes to capture sweeping overhead shots or experimenting with lighting gels to produce nuanced color shifts that subtly enhanced the mood. One particular challenge was balancing the film's complex visual effects with the practical sets. The production team developed a workflow that integrated physical effects with digital enhancements seamlessly. For example, miniature models of the crumbling cityscape were filmed in tandem with live-action shots, allowing for detailed interaction between real actors and digitally extended environments. This hybrid approach demanded careful planning and tight coordination between departments, especially during post-production, where timing and continuity were critical. The film's sound design team also played a crucial role in shaping the atmosphere on set. They employed cutting-edge recording techniques to capture ambient noises and subtle sound cues, which were later layered with the musical score to create an immersive experience. The composer worked closely with the sound designers, resulting in a fluid dialogue between music and effects that deepened emotional resonance. Interestingly, some natural sounds, like the creaking of the rotating hallway set or the crunch of snow boots, were preserved and even amplified, anchoring the surreal visuals in tactile reality. Another behind-the-scenes gem involves the film's casting process. The director and casting director held extensive auditions, seeking performers who could not only act but also perform demanding physical stunts and adapt to the film's unique shooting conditions. Early on, several actors had to drop out due to the intense schedule or the physical requirements, which led to last-minute recasting in some key roles. One replacement actor was famously cast just days before shooting began, bringing fresh energy and a slightly different interpretation to the character that the director embraced. Technology played a fascinating role in the production as well. The filmmakers employed a mix of traditional film cameras and the latest digital models, experimenting with different frame rates and resolutions to capture the desired visual texture. The cinematographer sometimes switched lenses mid-shot to vary focus and depth of field, adding subtle layers to the imagery. This technical sophistication was balanced by an old-school dedication to practical effects, resulting in a unique visual signature that set the film apart from purely CGI-driven productions. Despite the many challenges, there were moments of serendipity that delighted the team. One such moment occurred during a crucial scene where a prop malfunctioned, a meticulously crafted mechanical device designed to simulate a dream fragment. Rather than scrapping the take, The director encouraged the actors to improvise around the unexpected hiccup. The resulting footage, filled with genuine surprise and quick thinking, was kept in the final cut and praised for its authenticity. Perhaps the most telling behind-the-scenes detail is the unwavering dedication of every individual involved, from the highest-ranking producers to the grips and lighting assistants. Long shooting days often stretched into nights, but the mood remained collaborative and spirited. Crew members shared stories of midnight snacks and impromptu jam sessions, underscoring a family-like atmosphere born of shared hardship and creative triumph. In reflecting on the production, many cast and crew members have spoken about the profound impact the experience had on them personally and professionally. The film's demanding nature forced everyone to push beyond their limits, but also fostered growth and lasting friendships. Several actors credit the film with honing their craft and deepening their appreciation for the collaborative nature of cinema. The director's leadership style deserves special mention. Known for his balance of precision and empathy, he maintained a firm but kind presence on set. He challenged the team to innovate while offering support during tough moments, inspiring confidence and loyalty. His habit of personally reviewing dailies with actors to provide constructive feedback created a learning environment that elevated performances and strengthened the narrative's emotional core. In the end, the behind-the-scenes story is one of human endeavor, of overcoming physical and creative obstacles, of building trust in a shared vision, and of creating a film that, much like its narrative, is a dream made real through passion, perseverance, and collaboration. These hidden stories enrich our understanding and appreciation of the film, reminding us that every frame on screen is the result of countless unseen moments and countless hearts and minds working in harmony. What sets this film apart, beyond its dazzling visuals and intricate plot twists, is the way it weaves profound themes and symbolism into every frame, crafting a tapestry of ideas that resonate long after the credits roll. It's not just a story about reality versus dreams or memory versus identity. It's a meditation on the very nature of human experience, grief, love, and the fragile threads that hold us together. Each element, from the plot to the smallest visual detail, is charged with meaning, inviting viewers to explore beneath the surface. At the heart of the story lies a meditation on memory, how it shapes us, how it betrays us, and how it ultimately defines our reality. The protagonist's journey is not just about navigating an external labyrinth, but about confronting the labyrinth within, the mind's winding passages where memories flicker like fragile candles. Memory here is elusive and mutable. It's portrayed as both a sanctuary and a prison. The film uses the metaphor of a shifting cityscape to visualize this, with streets folding and unfolding like pages of a book, suggesting that our recollections are never fixed but constantly rewritten. This fluidity of memory connects deeply to the theme of grief and loss, which permeates the narrative. The story suggests that loss is not a singular event but a continuous process, a series of waves that crash and recede, reshaping the shoreline of identity. The protagonist's internal conflict, mirrored in the crumbling dream worlds, illustrates how grief can distort reality and fragment the self. Yet, within this painful transformation, there is also healing and acceptance. The mountain fortress, cold and isolated, symbolizes the emotional walls built to protect against pain, but the narrative arc encourages those walls to come down, making space for connection and renewal. Love, in its many forms, is another foundational theme. The film explores romantic love, familial love, and self-love with equal care, showing how they intertwine and influence one another. The relationships between characters are layered with complexity, sometimes tender, sometimes fraught with misunderstanding, always evolving. The symbolism of water, appearing in both literal floods and as a metaphor for emotional immersion, captures the overwhelming power of love and its capacity to both drown and sustain. Water's dual nature, as a life-giving force and a potential threat, mirrors the ambivalence that love often entails. Identity is explored through the film's examination of dreams as both refuge and trap. The dream worlds represent alternate selves and possibilities, spaces where desires and fears manifest freely, but also where illusions can mislead. The protagonist's struggle to distinguish between dream and reality is ultimately a struggle to understand who they truly are beneath the masks and roles they play. The folding city, endlessly reconfiguring, is a powerful symbol of this fractured identity. Always shifting, never fully graspable. The resolution of the plot, which embraces ambiguity rather than tidy answers, reinforces the theme that identity is fluid and shaped by perception as much as by fact. One of the most compelling symbolic motifs is that of the labyrinth itself. Unlike traditional mazes with clear entrances and exits, this labyrinth is one of perception and memory. Endless, intricate, and often paradoxical. It's a space that forces the protagonist and the audience alike to question assumptions and look deeper. The use of architectural symbolism, crumbling buildings, staircases that lead nowhere, corridors that rotate, mirrors the psychological traps and revelations encountered throughout the story. The labyrinth is both a challenge and a metaphor for the process of self-discovery and the complexity of the human mind. Light and shadow are used throughout the film to underscore dualities. Knowledge and ignorance, hope and despair, reality and illusion. The interplay between illumination and darkness becomes a visual language for internal conflict. Scenes bathed in warm light often represent moments of clarity, connection, or hope, while shadows envelop characters in doubt, fear, or confusion. This chiaroscuro effect extends beyond mere aesthetics. It deepens emotional resonance and echoes the film's philosophical undercurrents about the nature of truth. Color symbolism is subtle but deliberate, aiding in the storytelling without overwhelming the viewer. The cooler palette of blues and grays dominates the dream worlds, evoking a sense of detachment and melancholy. In contrast, warmer hues, soft golds and earthy tones, appear in scenes tied to memory and emotional intimacy, symbolizing warmth, life, and grounding. The gradual shift in color saturation throughout the film reflects the protagonist's evolving emotional state, moving from numbness toward awakening and acceptance. The motif of water deserves special attention, not only for its literal presence but for its layered symbolism. Water often signifies transformation, cleansing, and rebirth in literature and art, and this film embraces those connotations while adding unique nuances. The underwater sequences, where gravity loosens and the laws of physics bend, represent surrender to the subconscious and the unknown. Yet water also embodies danger and the threat of drowning, paralleling the protagonist's fear of losing control or being consumed by unresolved emotions. This duality enriches the narrative's emotional texture, highlighting vulnerability and strength as intertwined. Mirrors and reflections are another recurring symbol, used cleverly to question perception and reality. Characters frequently encounter distorted or fractured reflections, underscoring themes of self-examination and the multiplicity of identity. These visual cues remind viewers that appearances can be deceptive, and that understanding oneself requires looking beyond surface illusions. In one particularly striking sequence, a shattered mirror reflects fragmented faces, visually articulating the protagonist's fractured psyche and the process of integrating disparate parts of the self. The motif of time, too, is intricately woven into the narrative and symbolism. Time in this story is nonlinear, elastic, moments stretch, contract, and fold back on themselves much like the architecture of the dream city. This manipulation of temporal flow reflects how memory and trauma affect our experience of time, where past and present blur, and moments of crisis seem to stretch indefinitely. The film's use of clocks, watches, and recurring temporal imagery emphasizes the tension between the desire to hold onto time and the inevitability of change and loss. The narrative's exploration of fate and free will emerges subtly through these themes, suggesting a delicate balance between forces that shape us and the choices we make. The labyrinth can be seen as both a trap and a path, depending on perspective, implying that while some events may feel predetermined, the act of navigating them is deeply personal. This ambiguity invites viewers to reflect on their own journeys, making the story's psychological drama universally resonant. Symbolism also extends to the supporting characters, whose roles often embody thematic contrasts. For example, the enigmatic figure of the antagonist represents the darker aspects of memory, denial, repression, and destructive obsession. His presence in the labyrinth is a constant reminder of the dangers of clinging to the past.